Hi there. I'm not sure people realise how much effort goes into making a video, but it does take quite a bit of time and effort, and especially when you're learning how to make things on the lathe or the mini mill, it can be sort of quite difficult at times. But anyway, I just thought I'd show you a quick glance of some of the equipment I use. So this is a bit of footage taken from my mobile phone showing a bit of the setup. So this is my main camera, a little Sony A6000, a cracking little camera really, good with autofocus, a bit of light in there if I need it, and this is my old Canon, so this is for 5D Mark II. And I sometimes use that for close-up work. That's a macro lens on the front. Well, having unpacked the castings for the Stuart half beam, I was well impressed with the size of this flywheel. 7 inches in diameter. Now, I've only machined two other flywheels in the past, and both were 3 inches in diameter. I think I did them both on my mini lathe. Now this won't fit onto a mini lathe, and I think it'll just fit on my SC4, fingers crossed. So it should be a really good challenge this, so let's see how we get on. Okay, so on closer inspection of this flywheel, I've noticed a couple of little holes in it. There's one there, and one there. Now I'm not sure whether they'll machine out, but I think the first thing I need to do before putting this on the lathe is to use the bench grinder to remove some of these lugs, and also use the hand file just to tidy it up a bit. So I've switched the jaws around, so now I can expand it out sort of onto these inside edges of the rim, something like that. So I'll centre it up off camera and see how we get on. Well, I've spent a lot of time trying to get this set up on the 4-jaw chuck, and I'm just not happy with it. So I'm going to try and use a faceplate for the first time. Well, this is the first time I've tried mounting this faceplate onto the lathe, and I just can't believe it. The mechanism that holds the chuck guard gets in the way, so I'm just somehow going to have to disconnect that. I've taken the 2 nuts off and the washer. If I take that off and pull that off, this stud unscrews. You can see there's a micro switch which obviously operates the lathe when it's closed. So I need to work out what to do to ensure that's closed so the lathe will operate. Well, I'd drilled this piece of perspex to hold the switch down, but I've just found out that for the lathe to operate the switch needs to be uncovered. Seems a bit strange, but hey-ho, that's the way it is. Okay, so never having used this before, I thought I ought to check the run out. And it's within 1 thou, so I think we're okay with that. So I think I said before I've never used a faceplate before, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try packing it out with this perspex. Now I've filed this face here, so if I put that down sort of like that, So that's creating a bit of a gap here, so I don't end up machining the faceplate. And then I'm thinking of using these things here, maybe something like that. Or the other way around. I'll have a mess around off camera. Well, that seems to have worked out okay. It's only loosely fitted at the moment. I've not put any packing under the spokes because I don't think I need it, because the clamps are sort of really close to the edge here anyway, so I don't think it's going to distort the spokes. So what I'll do is I'll put the faceplate on the lathe and see if I can get this centred properly. Well, I've tried to centre it on this inside rim, and it's pretty close. Probably to within about 12 thou in total. So I think I'm going to have to go with that. And just checking the boss as well. It's within about 10 thou. Well, I decided to put a couple of more clamps on, just in case. Well, I was hoping to use this tool, but it's not long enough, unfortunately, to get right across the face. So I've got this high-speed steel tool in there. I've never used this one, it's a left-hand one. So what I'll do is I'll use the fine feed, and I'll cut at 5,000 increments at a time. I don't want to put too much sort of stress on the edge. Now my lathe, the minimum speed it'll go is 100 RPM. So unfortunately that's what it's going to have to be, 100 RPM. Not clearance there, so we'll give it a bash. Well, it's quite slow progress, but gradually getting there. I'm only cutting 2 or 3 thou at a time on the fine feed, but there's no rush. So the casting is machined close to 7 inches in diameter, and there's still a bit of a hole there in the casting. But I've got a bit of a plan going back to my wood turning days. So what I'm going to do is, going back to my wood turning days, I used to introduce aluminium into wood, and the way I used to do that is, I used to get some epoxy resin, mix it up and add some aluminium powder. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing and put quite a high concentration of aluminium powder in the epoxy in this. Then I'm going to try and fill in that hole in the casting, and then I'll leave it overnight, and then I'll give the casting a final finish on the lathe. Now aluminium is probably not quite the same colour as cast iron, but it's probably better than a hole. Well, 24 hours later and that is absolutely rock hard. So I'll just machine it down and see how it turns out. Well, that seems to have worked out okay. Slight discoloration, but hopefully when I machine that edge it won't be at all noticeable. Fingers crossed. Okay, so now I need to take about 60 thou off this side here. Okay, and now I'm using the power feed on the cross slide. Cutting in 10 thou increments each time. Well, I'm really happy with the finish there. And so now what I need to do is to face off the boss, tidy up this edge, and then drill and ream to 7/16 of an inch. So to get in close enough to machine this boss, I'm using this left hand tool held in the tool post that way around. So I'm just going to clean the face up on this boss. My tool height's a little bit out, so I need to correct that. Okay, and now just to clean up the side of the boss. So the centre needs to be bored to 7/16 of an inch. So what I've done is I've centre drilled already, and I'm in the process of drilling through, right through with various sized drill bits until I get to 27/64, which is 1/64 less than 7/16. So once I've done 27/64, I'll then ream. So I'll ream at a speed of around 300. So that's all the machining completed on this side. I might, before I take it off, I think I'll just maybe use a bit of wet and dry just to remove some of the machining marks, and then I'll switch it round and I'll machine the other side here and the side and front of the boss. But I'll do all that off camera because it's just a repeat of what I've done really. Oh, and I've just remembered I need to take this edge off here. Well, before switching the casting around, I decided to sand up to 400 grit, wet and dry, and then I use, again from my wood turning days, some Yorkshire grit with 1000 grit. It's a bit messy, but it brings up a really nice finish. And then finish it off with some of this kitchen roll. Well, that's a pretty good finish. So what I'll do is I'll switch it round, centre it with the gauge on the edge, and machine the other side and the boss. But like I say, I'll do all that off camera. Well, the machining of the other side and the boss seemed to go okay. So what I need to do now is to make a 2BA thread in this boss here. That's for the grub screw. So what I've done is I've just cut a piece of 7/16 bar, Loctited it onto the wheel, and put it in this Stevenson's collet block. then I've put it in the vise at an angle, so everything's nice and secure. So what I'll do is I'll centre drill, and then I'll drill and then tap to 2BA. Oops. It's all a bit tight in there. I'm going to drill 3mm initially, and then 3.9, and then I'll tap it. Well, this is all very tight, so I think what I'm going to have to do is take it off the mill, put this Stephenson's collet block in the vise, and then just hand tap it. So the run out is about 4 thou, so I'm not sure whether that's good or bad for a wheel this size. It looks pretty good though. Fairly happy with that. Well, I must say that was extremely eventful. It's only the third flywheel I've ever made, and the other two were only 3" in diameter. It's the first time I've used the faceplate, which was quite interesting, and certainly the first time I've tried to install it on the SC4 lathe. But anyway, I got there in the end. I'm sure I could have cut more aggressively on the edge. I was only cutting around about 3 thou at a time. I'm sure if I had the bottle, I could have cut around about 10 thou. But apart from that, I'm really happy with the finish. The hole that was there isn't obvious. I mean, it's not a hole anymore. And I had an unfortunate mishap on the mill. I just caught the edge there, so it's just made a little mark. So I'll have to revisit that, I think, in the future. But apart from that, I'm really happy with it. It runs really, really nicely, nice and concentric. So anyway, I hope you found the video of interest, and I hope you like the results.